Hey everyone, welcome to the live stream. I am really excited today. We've got our friends from MindManager here, and we're going to be showcasing the new version 23.1, and we're quite excited about that. Just as a side note, we've got another live stream coming up next Tuesday. And because it's Halloween, it'll be a trick and not or treat. It'll be a trick and a treat. We're going to be showing some ACT-CRM tricks, and we're also going to have some treats, which would be some giveaways for those who attend the live session. And so keep an eye on your inbox because we'll be showing you or sending you out an email with all the details tomorrow. And so we'll look forward to having you there. We're going to have some cool things that we're going to show you with the ACT-CRM that I think you may or may not know about. Today we're gonna let's jump. We're gonna dive into this right now and kind of get the ball rolling here. So we've got Alex
Hey everybody.
on board from MindManager, and he's gonna be showing us some really cool things today. And we've got Mark on here too, but I don't let me get Mark. He lost his camera, and so we got audio, but I've got to pull in some audio for him. So just give me give me a sec here. Where are we here? There we are. Let me. Okay,
I want to
that's
believe this
me.
camera story, Mark, but I'm pretty sure was it bad haircut? It's going. You gotta like me do. You gotta take it off.
Okay, Mark, there you go.
Oh,
You're on.
I'm here. I'm here to support you, gentlemen, but verbally only. I don't know what was wrong with my camera, but it did start acting up. But here to help with any questions, and you guys take it from here.
All right. Thanks, Mark. All right. Alex, are you ready to dive in and show us the new version and all the bells and whistles and things we can do with it?
Absolutely. This has
All
been
right.
a massive release, and I'm excited. So, MindManager version 23.1.24. That's I add that ending there in case any of you have been on our beta experience. We want to make sure you have that .24 ending because some of the things that you may have tested out with us have been finalized and updated with that specific build number. Now, obviously, our session today is going to be about 60 minutes, but we have a ton to cover. And of course, you can ask questions at any time throughout the discussion today. And I would love to make sure that those that do attend have an opportunity to address any feedback to us. You can certainly go to the community forum and chat with us directly, or you can reach out to me personally, alex.smith@mindmanager.com. I always enjoy talking with users. I learn things from you all the time, and it's just a great experience overall. So first and foremost, we're going to start off.
We just had Sharon Foth say hello, Mind Manager here. So we just want to say if you guys have any questions, I've got the comment section here open. So I'll act as moderator. Alex, will you dive in?
Awesome. And hello, Sharon. Thank you for joining. So the whiteboard template is where we will start. Wow, that's a lot of. So we'll start there, and that's actually a brand new experience that relies on sticky notes. We've had a lot of feedback from users that wanted the ability to do brainstorming in some dynamic ways, and having those sticky notes makes them feel like it's a much more personal experience, something that they're used to doing when they were back in the office, especially with the way that COVID has changed our working environments. So that also introduced a new mode of kind of topic style called card mode, and it allows the topics to function in a different capacity around text and making the diagrams a lot smoother and more crisp. So we'll talk about that as well. Then we'll discuss flowcharting and some of the enhancements that we've made there as far as identifying anchor points and cleaning up the look and feel. And then, of course, the relationship and dependency routing will also be addressed because that goes hand in hand with cleaning up parts. And high connections is one of my favorite examples that we have. It was created by one of my colleagues from the European region, Yoel Al-Rahim. It's a London transit map, and it's so cool once you get to see it in action. And as you'll start to use this particular feature in your diagrams, I hope that it will be extremely beneficial in the long run as well. Next, we'll talk about MindManager files and how it creates a third-party experience for you to store all of your material that is actually back-ended with the MindManager servers and all of our systems, so you no longer have to add additional places. And I'll show you how to share content through that system, as well as check the activity digest so you get notifications on what has been going on with your files, who's been viewing them, who's been editing them, that sort of thing. We'll also cover the under the hood elements, that's just general usability and improvement. And of course, the big item, we say the best for last, is the Jira integration. We've had this request for many years, and it's something that a lot of people are just hungry to have as a part of the MindManager experience, and it is finally here. So with no further ado, let's jump into our first section here. We'll be talking about that new whiteboard template. Okay, so the whiteboarding template actually is just one of many templates that have been updated for this particular release. In fact, whiteboarding is, I guess you would say, quote unquote, brand new, but we've also taken the opportunity to update all of our previous templates that had the similar backing. So you can see this lean canvas model example will also be utilizing the sticky note experience, and that obviously allows you to overlay the content together, a feature which was previously a lot more difficult to do because you had to do a 2 or 3 step process to overlay topics in the past. But with card mode, it's a lot better. You can also see that same example has been updated for the business canvas, as well as some of our Venn diagrams, as well as brainstorming experiences as well. Something to keep in mind, as you'll see in the Venn diagram example, is that though these topics are in card mode, they don't actually have to be shaped like a sticky note. They don't have to be a full square. So obviously these are rectangular in shape. So that goes to show that you can take one version of the feature as far as card mode and those kinds of things and apply them to other traditional sized topics in the map as well. So you don't have to just use sticky notes, as you'll see as we move forward. So let's go ahead and open that new template, and we'll use that a little bit. By going to File and New in the upper corner, here is that new whiteboarding template example. Now, to be clear, this is going to be bordered in the green experience of MindManager. If that's something that you're not familiar with, let me take just a moment to explain a bit more. So anything in MindManager bordered with green will be in the same idea of the concept of flow charting, concept maps, that sort of thing. That is all what we would call a relation-based diagram. So the difference between those three, the two on the end here and then whiteboarding at the beginning, is that the hierarchy-based diagrams, which you can see through radial map, right map tree, org chart, and timeline, all of these have a structure that is automatically generated that connects the lower level topics to the parent topic. As a result, they function a bit differently. In these examples, you can roll content together so that you get an overall level of progress. You can identify the cost of different sub-elements. And in fact, Gary gave a great example of that in our previous webinar, tracking the cost of different marketing initiatives throughout a timeline example. So again, hierarchy has a different use case behind it. Today's example with the wording will be based on flowchart and concept map kind of inner workings. So from here, we have the first sticky note, and of course, by double clicking into the canvas anywhere, we can add additional, or you can use the anchor points and they will actually park them relative to the anchor point that you're touching. You can also use the sticky note option from the ribbon up above, and then you can certainly place that content wherever you like. You'll also notice that as you use that drag and drop, it will automatically align that new sticky note on top of any others. If you ever need to adjust that, so let's say, for example, that I name this topic here A, D, and we want to be at the very front of our stack of sticky notes, we can certainly right click here and you can tell it to bring to the top. That way it will kind of overshadow everything else. You can also, of course, using your formatting ribbon, change the fill color of that particular sticky note compared to others and make all of the creative adjustments that you like. So it's a really awesome way to kind of get ideas out of your head into the canvas. But keep in mind, the canvas itself is wide open. So you can zoom out here and see that you can have ideas structured all around the place and start to create little subsets of or groups of ideas and then use this whiteboard truly a traditional whiteboard. So Gary, now that we've covered our first particular example, are there any questions that relate to using sticky notes, anything along those lines?
Nothing as of yet, Alex, but if anybody does have any questions as we're going through, please don't hesitate to throw them in the comments, and then we will pull them up.
Awesome. And Gary, I mean, I didn't really get a chance to kind of show you the new features. Any questions here from you as well?
No, not yet. So this is all new to me as well, folks. I've actually downloaded the update, but I haven't had a chance to dive in and explore. So I'm learning just like everyone else, Alex.
So one thing that I will like to point out is that this content is bordered in green experience, as you can see here. Something else to keep in mind is that at any point, you can grab all of this material and you can copy it and paste it into a more traditional hierarchy diagram. So if we go back to File and New here at the top of the screen, you can see that by default, my first map is always going to be radio. If you wanted Whiteboard to be default, you would simply right-click on the star in the corner here and then trigger that change to default template option. But for now, I'm just going to use a radio map. And so now I can just do a quick paste, and you'll see that everything that I had as a sticky note is now brought over as a traditional main topic in our hierarchy diagram. Some of the formatting did stay, others were removed. So some of the things that we'll now cover are ways that the topic info has now changed based on the fact that it's in a hierarchy diagram versus a traditional whiteboarding template. So of course the color that stayed, but the shape has then defaulted to the default of the radio map. The other thing to keep in mind here is that the topic information inside, such as the text, has also been updated. I'm sorry about that. Didn't mean to scroll. I was trying to move this down. So let's say that we want to auto resize the information. I've got this set of text here. I'm just going to copy this info and I'm going to paste it into our original version of the data. So let's go ahead and paste it in. You can see that automatically it down the size of the text so that it would essentially fit onto a sticky note. And then once it ran out of space, it gave us the 3 dots here letting us know there was more information to be read. Now that will change when you paste this over into a hierarchy diagram. So let's copy it again. We'll go back over to our other map. And as we highlight and paste, you'll see that it stays exactly the same as it would in a traditional topic space. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The hierarchy diagrams are not defaulted to card mode, so they won't have that minimized text because obviously this space is considered the hierarchy diagram with the blue border around it. So anything bordered in blue is going to function in the traditional experience of MindManager. All right, so let's go ahead and minimize here and we'll go a little bit and talk about how the stick came. And so this is an example about combining things with smart rules, creating custom image shapes, and applying images that you bring to the table into the background of your topics. So the story goes, originally MindManager didn't have a true whiteboarding mode. So a few members of my team actually designed these little sticky note cards, and we started to test out different iterations of how it could work and what the feature set would be. We then eventually passed that over to our product development team, and then they revised and refreshed that model for us. So the way that we were able to accomplish this, and I'll use this little creation space here to show you, is by right-clicking on our topics and choosing the Format Topic option. And so that allowed us to change the behavior and margins. So we can select things like card mode from here, but also the subtopic layout or the shape and color. And here is where you can apply a custom image. So if you have a company logo, if you have a cartoon character, or anything that you want to use in here, it's going to be easily added to the kinds of things that you can use for topic shapes. One thing that I've seen people do is when they bring a document over from a platform like Visio that has very specific shapes and they want to replicate some of what they've done there, they will grab those shapes and then apply them as custom images here in MindManager. So it helps you to kind of bridge the gap between those two different experiences. Now, once everything is done and you've got that as a part of your topic style list, then you can easily go to the formatting ribbon at the top of the screen and select the topic style from a drop down, and then you can certainly just highlight the one that you want. Now, what we've also done in this particular example is create a section of the canvas that adheres to smart rules. And a smart rule is a way to create an advanced function of MindManager that automates a change in your document. So as I drag and drop this topic over, you'll see that it will change color and it will apply a resource. So that is essentially saying that anything that has reached full completion will be a green color and will be assigned to Alex so that he can take the next step with this particular initiative. Now, of course, that resource could be a department, it could be another system that it needs to move into to go on to the next step in the process. Oh, and by the way, Gary, I don't know if I mentioned this at the top of our call, but we are happy to share downloadable pieces of content from today's discussion. That way, as I'm walking through these examples and they are watching the recording, any of your attendees can certainly follow along as well. So we did add little sets of instructions to remind everyone how to do these kinds of things, where to look. So as they download the material, point to those little thumbnails, and then you'll have more detail as
Awesome.
well.
That's great.
Alrighty. So any questions at this point?
Not at this point.
Okay, sweet. Moving right along. So next we enhance the flowcharting experience. Now this one was definitely something that I was happy to see because I create a lot of maps and they get pretty big and they get jam-packed with lots of detail. And because of that, some of the shortcomings of version 22 were definitely starting to glare. And let's jump into an example and I'll show you a little bit about what I mean. So a traditional data flow model is something like what you're going to see here. I'm going to go ahead and minimize that pop-up. So this is a typical file for something that we build at MindManager, and it's just a whirlwind of information, but all of this content is something that we have kind of positioned and structured in a way that we don't really want to change it anymore, right? So with version 23 opening an older file, we did not set it to default everything to card mode. So you can see some things are green, others are blue. As a result, you don't have to worry about all of your diagrams from previous builds of MindManager suddenly shifting around and looking different because of that card mode. So that's not on default. So if anyone is worried about that, you put those fears to bed. Here's a great example, a very, very well file, and everything is still in its place, just as you would expect. So let's talk a little bit more about how those adjustments came to be. So let's say I want to update this left side of MindManager 2022.1. I'm actually going to have to unlock the background here because this is technically an image. MindManager 23 is so good that I can't replicate the problems that we had in other versions. So I just had to take a screenshot and apply it over the actual canvas. So if I remove it, you can see what it used to do. So as you can see, those arrows have shifted and we have this arrow is actually covered completely by the word no. So it just kind of muddied the waters of things as well as changed the context of what we were kind of reviewing. One other subtle detail that you may have not picked up on is that the shape of the diamond has also been minimized to match the exact height of the other topics. So as you can see, start, sign in, and all of the other topics are the exact same height dimensions. And that was a goal of making everything a little bit more uniform. And then of course, if we add additional topics, we can simply do that with the anchor points to the side. We can park those in anywhere that we want. But again, the alignment helper is going to try to keep everything in position. And then of course, we can use our arrow keys to realign things as needed as well. Now, one of my favorite things about this build is because they are defaulted to card mode, if you have text that gets just too large, and so let's say I just add some more information here, you will start to see that the font will decrease to about 7 points. And then of course you get the pop out that shows you the rest of the information. So it's a great feature to keep everything in alignment to make sure that your diagrams look great and are still legible, and you can certainly store as much information as you need. And then you don't have to worry so much about your grid lines. That's one thing that I ran into a lot with previous builds. When we would start to bring over things like smart shapes, let's say for example here on the insert tab where I'm looking at my swim lanes, if I want to have a 3 by 1, here we are. Now, because everything kind of fits into the grids so seamlessly, we don't have to worry about grabbing these center lines and trying to adjust one column compared to the other. It just makes your life a lot easier. Of course, you can do all of your object formatting. So if we wanted this to have a different fill color or something like that, we could certainly make that yellow, apply all of the so on. But now you don't have to really worry about grabbing these inner lines to make sure everything is going to fit appropriately. They are just kind of designed that way by default. So a really, really awesome set of updates there to flowcharts. All right, so before I shut this example, any questions here, Gary? Let me close up some of these.
No
Clean up our
questions, but I
workspace.
actually have one, or actually I want to make a comment. For those of you who maybe have not done any process diagrams, this is something that you should really consider. I mean, MindManager does a lot of different things. I mean, for brainstorming and I've showed examples, and Alex showed examples last time. But there's so many different things you can do, and one of the things is doing processes, and there's several ways of doing processes. And Alex, I'm impressed with the changes that they've made, because, like, for example, the decision diamond, being large and stuff like that, the little things that you've adjusted here makes it a lot easier to do a diagram. So, where these come in handy, folks, is if you have processes in your office and you're wanting to have details of how things are to be done, you can lay them all out so everybody's on the same page of how a specific process is done. And this would be part of your standard operating procedure. So I'm really impressed with the changes that they've made, Alex.
Awesome. Thank you, Gary. I appreciate that bit of feedback. And you know what? It actually gave me an idea. This is a bit of a deviation from where we were headed, but this example is something that Mark actually just showed a customer because it is so timely. This is an example of the actual service request that customers go through, or I should say, when we've already improved this process, but this is the that we used to learn about our process and to find ways to improve it. So I'll give you a lay of the land and kind of walk you through exactly what's going on in this file. So you can see that we have a service request being given to us by a customer that goes to our sales department, and then we try to organize to reach the service request of the sales engineer who's going to help them, teach them, or guide them toward that goal of using MindManager in one capacity or another. Well, internally, when we saw this kind of state of being, we knew that it wasn't ideal. So what we wanted to do was to layer this information with as much filterable content as possible, and then try to segment out what we need to improve upon. So the way that we did that was by layering these with tags. So you can see it as a service request item, and you can identify which players internally need to be a part of it. So we will right click here, choose to quick filter and show topics with that marker. That allowed us as an organization to have an ad hoc meeting about these 5 elements in our service request experience. And then from there, we were able to use things like the notes environment to highlight particular parts of the software that we need to update or fix, or how we can improve and use the software to improve that part of the process. We were able to take screenshots of things that were going on at the time, you name it. And so ultimately, we were able to take all of that detail, identify every part of that process, and then change the perspective. Let's say at that point we needed to get feedback from our department. They could go into the file, use the exact same version that we were, look at it from the touch point that they have. And as a part of that, they then improve their process in the exact same way. Now, the net gain from that is that everybody was on the same page. We were using the exact same file, but what it allowed us to find a default forward, right? So if everything goes according to plan, if we can get all of the noise out of the way, here is what our end-to-end process looks like. So we were able to set a goal for ourselves and then execute based on using MindManager as the way to visualize the then and the now. How do you think about that, Gary?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, that's really really amazing. One of the things too I should mention for those who are watching, with the chart that it's laid out, and Alex clicked on one where it had the notes section, and this is where you would put. This would be, think of this as high level, and then if you want specific detailed work instructions for that particular thing, like Alex has got there, when you click on it, it will actually bring out all of the details, and you can have step-by-step instructions for any of your employees or for yourself. So there's no questioning what are the steps for this. And again, from a previous one, you can take this information and make yourself a standard operating procedure that is in an HTML format where people can look and see with it from an internet connection, as opposed to having access to the file if required. So you may have people in different locations that maybe you don't want them to go and change too much stuff, but you want them to see it. You'll be able to do that. So these flowcharts are amazing, how you can take one item there and then break it down through the notes section and give it all the details you wish.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate that info. You're absolutely right. And obviously, this is not a new feature by any shot of the doubt, but publishing is exactly what Gary was describing. And it's a fantastic way to make sure that everybody on your team stays up to date with the latest version of the platform. So I couldn't agree with you more. So now that we've that little detour, let's jump back into our presentation and we'll carry on a little bit more. But when we start talking about flowcharts, I just can't rave enough because they ultimately have improved the way we interact with our customers. And I'm just extremely grateful that MindManager is such an awesome tool that we can leverage each and every day in how we improve the experience for our users. So next is the update that we made to our relationship line. So if you are someone that has used MindManager to manage projects, then you are very, very aware of some of those messy, I guess that's the right word, messy lines have been plaguing documents. Well, we tried making an adjustment to that a few years ago by including a feature that turns them off. That's actually found under the View tab here, listed under the Show and Hide settings. So from here, you can actually turn off your dependency lines. And this was a great end result. It gave you these hyperlinks that would allow you to jump from topic to topic, but wouldn't have the clutter inside. And like our previous example, MindManager 23 is so well-rounded that I couldn't actually create a messy example. So this is another screenshot. That's why when I made that adjustment, everything on the left stayed exactly the same. So again, a screenshot on the left and a live document here on the right. So let's go ahead and add those dependency lines back, and you'll see a little bit more about how we've tried to clean those up. So obviously a very, very big difference between this section and the section here on the right already. But let's add additional lines and see how clean it still can remain. Now to do a multi-select between these two items, all I did was hold Control on my keyboard and then left click one and then the other. So let's say I go from here and I go up to my Insert tab and bring over a new relationship line. You can see there it's still looking pretty clean. Now let's say I add one from 3 to 5 as well. And then maybe I want one from 1 to 5 as a final example. So that's 3 different tiers of lines all connecting these topics, and it's still very easy to follow and understand exactly how everything is interconnected. And again, it just looks a whole lot better than our version here on the left. One other thing that we have updated here for this particular example is the spacing between the sibling topics. So to do that, all you have to do is select your parent topic, which is project plan here, right click on it, and again, going back into that formatting topic area, this is where you're going to be looking at the subtopic layout. And what we did was increase the space between our siblings from 7 to 11. That gave us just enough additional space to kind of pull this example off. And of course, it just makes it a much more neat looking file, right? We all have large documents. We're all managing a lot of things and a lot of moving parts, but you don't want to get lost in the noise of the actual diagrams. And that was our goal here with this set of adjustments. Even so much so that if you have an item that crosses over into another phase, so let's say we highlight these two items and we bring in a relationship that direction, again, still easy to follow, and we can make those connections one-to-one. So any questions here, Gary, before we jump back into our presentation?
No, not at this point.
All right, sweet. We're making really good time. That'll leave us a lot of space for the Jira integration as well. All right, so here's one of my other favorite parts of today's discussion, the highlight connections option for version 23. Now, this is for inbound and outbound versions of your relationship lines. You're going to find this on the View tab at the top right here. And so let's say, for example, that you wanted 2 levels of the outbound items for any one of your tasks. That way you can kind of mute the other information and visualize on the next 2 levels, where here is a great example of what that would look like. Again, going if you want the opposite direction, right? Maybe we want to start at level 3 and then move upwards 2 levels from the parent topics or sibling topics there. Well, we can go ahead and take a look at what that would look like. You can see we are highlighted here on task 4, but because we selected 2 levels inbound, that means we're going to go backwards twice to levels 3 and 2. And then lastly, if you wanted to mix and match, do inbound and outbound, then you would have results. So the example that I have is not directly related to relationship lines. Obviously, I have the project plan here, and so I can highlight this pretty quickly. You can see that with 3 levels connected, got that connection point. Let's say we highlight item number 5 and we update it to only show our outbound versions. So we don't have any outbound here on 5. If we have just our inbound removed, and here we are. So you can mute everything on the background of this experience, make it a lot more user-friendly. And let's say we highlight number 4 here, or even number 3 here, then you're going to start to see all of that come together in concert, things that are coming in, things that are going out, and ultimately it's going to allow you to have a discussion around how best to move forward, how if we change the due date on this item and push it out by a few days, how is that going to impact the next subsequent task to follow, and then what are the downstream effects next phase of our initiative. So it's a great way to have those kinds of discussions. But the example that I told you about at the top of our call is one of my favorite maps just in general, just of all-time maps, right? And that's this London Transit example here. This is so unique and so cool. Again, my colleague in Europe put this together while he was traveling around London for a few weeks, and he just wanted where he was going and not get lost, right? What better way than to have MindManager as the back end system for that? So let's play around with this a little bit. Let's say that we only want to understand one level of where we are right now. Right? We can literally filter all of that noise out and just focus on, hey, I just want to get from point A to point B, and then I'll grow from there as things progress. Now, one thing that I find that's extremely helpful is if you start to layer the content with levels of priority. That will allow you to kind of navigate through this information in a different way. So let's say, for example, that I had certain places that I knew I wanted to visit while I was on holiday. I could take this number 1 marker and I could drag and drop it around the document to other places that I wanted to go. And that would allow me to see the specific places in the map a lot easier, because everything gets mapped to the index here on the right side of the screen. So as I start to understand where I need to go, so I need to get to Green Park, I can highlight it from here and don't actually have to find it in that noisy map. I can say, okay, next I need to travel over to the bank. I can highlight exactly where that is, and then of course, any other places along my journey. And so using these features in concert or making them work together is going to be a whirlwind of efficiency for the users that take the time to really master these new sets of options here. So Gary, with this example here live on the screen, any questions from yourself or the audience?
No, I got some thumbs up, but no questions.
Excellent. So hopefully everybody can see why this is one of my favorite maps. I mean, this is just so awesome. The time it took to build, I'm sure, was intense, but it actually reminds me of the version of the map that I think I showed you, Gary, a while ago. Another user of ours made a Star Wars based file, and again, highlighting your connections here is just as useful. This tracks all of the journeys that the different storylines of Star Wars go through, and all of the planets that they encounter and what languages are spoken. So another very, very interesting and creative file. So the MindManager canvas is, again, a wide open kind of whiteboard, for lack of a better word, that you can put together with all kinds of creativity along the way. But having that ability to highlight the connections between these storylines and everything else, for a Star Wars junkie like some of my friends are, this is probably next to impossible in any other tool. just another unique file to share as we talk about highlighting relationships. And let's shut some of these other examples, clean things up a little bit. Perfect. And of course, as I pointed out before, we will be sharing all of this content with your viewers, Gary. So of course, all of these downloadable examples will be coming their way as well.
Sounds good.
So next is the enhancement for MindManager files. Now, previously, our users used to have to go to File and add a place such as SharePoint, Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox, or Box, any of those locations. They used to have to manually add those in order to save content to the cloud. Now, this is also accessible in our web and Chromebook platforms as well. So though we are a Windows-based new feature discussion, this is one of the functions that does go cross-platform somewhat. It's not yet on our Mac side, so I don't want to give the wrong impression, but on the MindManager web and Chromebook extensions use this particular feature. So let's say that I wanted to take a look at my file. All I do is click this link here, open the MindManager browser. I have my canvas still here on the left, and I am accessing my MindManager files on the right. Now, of course, I can access all of my published documents. This is the function that Gary was mentioning just a few minutes ago about ways to keep everyone up to date with the content and having that HTML5 version available to them. This is exactly where you're going to find all of those files. And then my MindManager files that are stored in the cloud are going to be nested down here. Now from there, I have the option to, of course, share this material, so I can highlight the share option, and then I can determine if I'm going to be giving editable access or just view access to the people that I add in my list here. Now, in order to separate them, I simply just use a comma, and then I can punch in several different email addresses and send it to everyone at once. And something else to keep in mind here is you all have your account detail environment. And so we just covered our sharing. And we also have the account details, and that's where you're going to find your activity digest. So that's identifying how many times your file has been edited, who's been viewing the content. And so ultimately, it's giving you a high level perspective on what's resonating with the audience, right? If you're hosting a file for internal use and something may be too confusing and people may prefer to have a different look at things, maybe you can make some adjustments on the fly as you're working through that makes that file much more useful. So by going to your name in the corner, you can find account details from there. So after you're in your account details, it's going to be in the lower left corner, and all you have to do is make sure that your notifications are turned on. And then you just have to determine if you want those daily or weekly, and if you're looking to find out who's been editing or viewing the file. So simply kind of update these settings as according to what you're looking for, and you're good to go from there. And again, as a reminder, all of these screenshots will be included here in the actual file. That way you can follow along offline. Alrighty, so that brings us to the big integration with Jira that we did this year. This is something that has been on the roadmap for probably 4 or 5 years, and it's something that I know a lot of people are excited to see. So of course, you do have to make sure you have the right kind of platform, so either Jira Cloud or Jira Data Center, some kind of other paid subscription that they offer, of course, to leverage this particular feature.
Alex, can you explain what Jira is for those who don't know what that is?
Yes, actually, that's the first thing that I'm going to be doing. So
Okay.
let's take a look at this file, and we'll explain a little bit about what Jira is and what users are doing with it. So Jira is a way for product developers and people to run sprints, and ultimately, it's a tool for, quote unquote, project management in another way or shape or form. So in this example, you can see that the item that this person is working on is developing and launching an informative website. They can make comments here, they've got history, they've got a work log, things like that. They can also attach files, link other issues, and you can also follow the string of things to find out exactly where it's located, what project it's a part of, what subgroup, and so on. And as a part of that, you also on the right side identify who it belongs to. Is it assigned to someone? What is the reporter line? How has it been filtered? What sprint is it on? And what level of priority does it have? So a lot of things that are relatively easy to migrate into a MindManager file, right? And so from that perspective, Jira was phenomenal. That wasn't where we found users making requests. They like all of that functionality. It started to change when they needed to update what they saw or change their perspective or see things in concert with others. How does working on this item bump into another? Those sorts of things. So as you start to do your import, which we'll take a look at now, you can start to define how the fields in Jira will correlate to the information that it receives in MindManager. So of course, if you want the issue type to be an icon, or you want the priority to be a 1-for-1, maybe you want the summary to be brought over as topic text, or maybe you want it nested inside of a note. So you have variations that you can do there. And then, of course, you can determine if it's going to be a hierarchy list or flat. Do you want to bring over the relationship lines like we talked about early on, or do you just want those nice blue hyperlinks instead? So you have a lot of adjustments that you can make even before you bring the material over. Now, what you gain, again, by doing that and taking the content out of that traditional project management tool and entering it into MindManager, is that you get more visibility. You get more ways to adjust that information, more ways to filter that content, more ways to identify the relationships between the downstream effects of what's going to happen. If this item pushes out by 2 weeks, what is the real set of ramifications of that, right? So ultimately, it's a project management tool that is very, very powerful, very popular. But of course, as every tool, including MindManager, every tool has its shortcomings and ways that it could be improved. And so MindManager is in no way trying to replace Jira. We want to be a complementary piece of the puzzle for those users out there. So let's take a look at the project here, Project UAM. We'll go ahead and open that up and we'll talk about that a little bit further. So the actual project you're looking at has an app of its own, which is nested here. Then, of course, it all is linked to the end of the Jira system. So if we want to review the actual Jira content, we could do that by clicking on the hyperlink here, and then it will open that built-in browser that I just showed you a moment ago. Now, that can be done for one topic, and then you can easily shift over to another. Now, the great thing is this is a 360-degree experience of the information. So as we are moving through the material here, let's go ahead and add some more screen real estate. Let's say that we wanted to add a due date to this item. We can go ahead and say it's going to be due on the 28th. Oh, you know what? That's a Saturday. Let's make it due on the 27th. There we go. And we'll say that has a start date of the 12th. There we go. Now that we've made those updates, we can go back into our mapping side of things, and we can make a quick refresh, and then it will pull all of that content over. So you can see it now has the 12th and the 27th, and it's listing it with 12 total work days. The awesome thing here is that every time you reopen a MindManager document, it's going to go out and automatically make those refreshings on each of the breakouts that you have in your canvas. So you can do that from the project level right here at the very top, or you can do it manually by phase or by subtask, even all the way down. So again, as long as you open MindManager and launch this file, you can be assured that all of your content will be the most up to date. Now, likewise, you can also make adjustments on information in MindManager, and that will then push its information over to Jira. So let's say, for example, that we don't want to dwell on this item any longer. We use the drop down and we can select Annette. And now you can see she will be here. The refresh icon is already updating. And then as we go back into the browser mode here on the side of the screen, we can go ahead and go to item number 42, and we'll see that Annette has been assigned to that here in Jira as well. So it's a full 360-degree experience, no matter what you're more comfortable working in. And again, maybe it's a way for you to find what works best in what systems, right? Maybe updating your content here with the description, start date, due date, and those kinds of things, and adding comments is something you're very comfortable doing here in Jira. But maybe once you reach a level of priority and wanting to understand where all of these items are going to be downstream effects and things along those lines, maybe that's when you bring it over into MindManager, and then you can shift things like your view. So let's go ahead and close the browser and we'll talk about the way you can view things based on icons. So because we have icons on all of these items, we can break it out this way. We could also look at it based on the Jira status or issue type. So here are our epics, our tasks, stories, and subtasks. And again, seeing this in Jira would be next to impossible because you'd have one icon per section, and then you'd have to shift your view entirely. So let's go. So for example, if we wanted to see our backlog items, we'd have to then select this link from here and then kind of sift through a list top down to find the item that we're looking for. The same can be said of our timeline, our active sprints, and reports as well. But with MindManager, you get everything at the click of a button. And then, of course, if you go back to progress, you could start to mark these items up with what's not done, what's 25%, so on and so forth, to the point where this becomes almost second nature for you and your team. Now, what you are also seeing take effect is MindManager of smart rules. As you can see, there's an alert symbol here and an exclamation point here. Let's go back to our advanced ribbon and we'll talk a little bit further about that. I'll choose to edit the rules and explain what they are doing and how it works. So our highlighting task is right here, and that's going to tell us that this task is at risk, not necessarily overdue, but it is at risk of coming overdue based on a fact, the progress compared to the amount of time left to complete it. So there's a small calculation going on in the background where we're saying that you've got 12 days to work on this item, but you're not done with it yet, and you have enough time to maybe complete 50% of it. So now it's quote unquote at risk. Whereas the item here, which is highlighted in red, that's going to be a past due item altogether. So it was due on the 6th, and a MindManager is visually alerting you. So by combining what you're doing in Jira and bringing it over into the MindManager space, you're going to gain knowledge that you would have probably missed with the naked eye, because you can set rules against the material essentially being imported from the Jira platform. And apologies on that example. I could see this one was tagged as done, so I should have definitely parked that one over on this side. And then, of course, the smart rule for done would have made more sense. For any sticklers out there that caught that, I do apologize. I put that in the wrong column. So thank you for your grace on that one. So any questions here, Gary? This is our last example, and then we're going to move to our Q&A.
No, no questions so far.
All right, wonderful. We do have some usability items that we have brought over as a part of version 23.1.240. Try to say that 10 times fast. But we now support Okta as single sign-on, so we'll go ahead and park that here in the box. You have your ability to download and add resources within the admin portal. We can do file search on teams, and that is by the entire tenant, not by each team site. That was a bit of a nightmare for people in the past, so I'm glad that that's been updated. You can have a set of improved links to OneNote. You can actually highlight specific sections there, not just the actual note itself. We've made additional improvements to the actual Teams space, so just the actual user interface has been cleaned up a little bit. Pasting links, this is one of my favorites. So you can see that as you paste in information now, we'll easily nest the content here in the lower section rather than making it topics that hang off the side. The Excel data mapper has also been improved. Mark and I have had this experience firsthand. We brought over some pretty large reports, and it would kind of slow MindManager down. That has been definitely overhauled, so that would be considered one of our overall performance improvements. One of the smart rules that we talked about a moment ago, one of the things that we updated is now being able to select by the topic level. So if something is better than or higher than a specific level in a branch, you can now use that as a trigger. So that's a very, very sought after feature, and I'm glad that's been brought over. And then, of course, the info has been wrapped around onto one neat level. So previously, it was all segmented layer by layer, but now you can kind of park everything together, cleaning up the view for your topic. So again, just a quick overview of those usability enhancements that aren't truly new features, but just things that we felt could be better. All right, so it sounds like we had no questions. Then I'll just transition right into our closing here. I just wanted to let everyone know that we do have a Meet the Experts webinar, which is our monthly series where we cover different topics about the platform. So November will be planning and whiteboards with MindManager. So obviously today we touched the surface with whiteboards, but once we move into that space of actually running a full 1 hour webinar solely on whiteboards and planning boards, it's going to be a much deeper dive. So I definitely invite you all back to that. If you have the ability to spend some more time with us, then I would definitely encourage you to take a look at the webinar calendar, because this is jam-packed with 2 years worth of content for all of the material that we have done since early 2022. So it's a wealth of knowledge. And of course, feel free to follow us on all social platforms and follow us on our website for more additional webinars and upcoming events there as well. Gary, thank you for the opportunity to present with your audience. It is always an absolute pleasure, and I'll turn the call back over to you.
Awesome, thank you. So appreciate you going through all of these changes, and I'm sure that for some people it might have been a bit of a deep dive for some, and for others it was like, oh, this is really cool. For me, this was amazing to see some of the stuff, and you can count on me picking Alex's brain further, implementing some of this stuff in our own practice. But it was really quite amazing. We've got some special pricing up until the end of the month for those who are looking to purchase it. We've got, let me just bring this up here. Okay, where did you go? You know, this happens when you're live. This is when things go, and I tested this earlier. There, okay, there we go. So MindManager Enterprise is regularly $239 Canadian. It's on for $199 Canadian. Minimum of 5 users for the MindManager Enterprise. For the MindManager Pro, and for some reason, there we are. There's the Pro. Same price, but you can buy single licenses for that. And so basically you can start off with the single license of Pro if you're wanting to test it out. We do have a link to our training. I will put that in the comments. I don't believe it's in there now, but I'll make sure that that's in there after the event. And we'll put that in so you can get try it out if you haven't tried it out before. And then let us know what you think. There's so many different things that you can use MindManager for. It's kind of come in with a blank slate, and what are the things that you would like to do, whether it's project management, brainstorming, flowcharting, concept design. Like, what is it do you want to do? MindManager is this Swiss knife, if you will, of being able to do the things that you just need to do. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a draw for a 1-year subscription of MindManager Pro. And so Alex, I think we'll spin this. So we'll see who wins, and we'll make sure that they get access to that application and test it out in their environment and be able to start getting a little more productive. Any comments before we spin the wheel?
I just wish everybody the best of luck, because whoever gets it is getting a very, very valuable piece of software for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I was on MindManager before we came on board with our marketing stuff, and some of the things that you can do with this thing is just amazing. To me, it's like any software. I don't think we use full potential of any software we own,
Sure.
but
Sure.
as you can understand how you can apply things more, you start saving time. You become more productive. There's just so many advantages of maybe a specific thing at one point doesn't matter to you, but then as you grow in the application, you go, oh, man,
Right.
now I can use this. So. Really excited. Well, let's spin this wheel. Let's see who we get for a winner. Stephen Webb is our new winner. Way to go, Stephen!
Congratulations.
We'll get that out to you, toot sweet. I think it takes about 4 or 5 days for the license to come through. So we're excited to have you play around with this. Alex, any closing remarks before we quit for today?
Come back next month. We have more content. Gary's got some things planned.
Yeah.
Oh no, I look like a gargoyle. That's
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, your stream was a little bit off for whatever reason. I kind of noticed that as we were going through. Yeah, it was really sharp when we started. I don't know what happened.
I don't know. Somebody's playing video games or watching Netflix or something. I'm not sure. Somebody's doing something around here. But
Yeah.
no, honestly, we've got more great content coming down the line. It's been phenomenal working with you, Gary. So I'm excited for what's to come.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. And just a reminder, we'll keep an eye on your inbox. We do have another live stream next week, and then we will be posting some more MindManager stuff that's coming up in November and December. We're excited about showing you some of those cool things, some neat integrations into some of the applications that you're currently using. So anyways, have yourself a great day. Again, Alex, thank you so much. We'll talk to you guys on the next one. Bye for now.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.